So the good news is I found my Reanimate shirt. Bad news is it's 2 weeks after we did the Reanimator review. Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron.
I'm Michelle.
And welcome back to Mad Science Mayhem, where we're watching mad scientist movies all month long. Let's just screw it. Just redo the whole thing. So on this episode, we're talking about the original 1958, The Fly. And this has been one of those films that for the longest time has been on my list of movies I never want to watch. Because I was aware of the ending of this film because when I was a kid, I never saw this movie, but when I was a kid, it was going to air on TV and there was a commercial that played and it just showed flat out that ending scene, and anybody who knows this movie knows that ending scene. And as a kid, that just messed me up. And I've mentioned this several times before, but one of my biggest fears when it comes to horror movies, specifically when I say one of my biggest fears, I mean one of those things that actually freaks me out. It's a film about someone just becoming something that isn't them and they can't control it. And I think that's where it comes from. When I was a kid, I just saw that ending scene and I was like, it's just stuck with me. And as we were sitting down to watch this, I was like, I'm feeling queasy. I know that, I'm not looking forward to this. But also, I have heard people say for the longest time that this movie isn't good. I've heard people trash talk this film for the longest time. We've now finally seen it. I like this movie. No one is more surprised at that than I am. What about you? How do you feel?
I liked it. I mean, it was enjoyable. It feels like your classic, B-movie, 50s horror. It
is definitely an old, it's weird to me. It doesn't quite feel like a drive-in horror film because a lot of drive-in horror films are like, we gotta keep stuff moving in here. This one takes its sweet time.
Yeah.
This felt more like a movie that would play in a theater that people back in the 1950s got dressed up to go and see. And I think that's one of the reasons why I found myself enjoying this film is because a lot of people argue that this film is boring. And I'll let you guys know right now, I checked it. It's over 50 minutes before you actually get to The Fly in your The Fly movie. We all know that Jeff Goldblum did the remake of The Fly, which everybody says is significantly better. And yeah, it is significantly better.
I've never seen it. I don't want to. I heard it's really disgusting.
It is very disgusting. It's also really sad. But yeah, it is definitely better. But I couldn't help but watch this film and just have Jeff Goldblum in the back of my mind the whole time, just going, now, you are going to have The Fly in your The Fly movie, correct? It's like, yeah, that's all I could think about. Because it was like, man, this thing is taking its time getting to that. So I understand people arguing that this film drags. But I found myself, as we were watching this, just thinking about what it must have been like to be an audience member back in the 1950s watching this film. And back then, there were trailers, but they were vague trailers. They didn't tell you everything. There might be like a movie poster. And I did look up some of the old movie posters, and some of them do spoil it. Mm-hmm. But a lot of the other ones, very vague. You don't know what's going on. And this movie, it starts with a moment early on, like 3 minutes into it, that literally made both of us go, what the fuck? And I wasn't expecting to get that reaction at all from this movie. And it starts with something like that. And the film is built like a mystery. Mm-hmm. And I can understand an audience member today who knows what The Fly is. You are waiting for The Fly to be introduced. You're wondering where it is. And I found myself just sitting there going, yeah, but what if you weren't an audience member today? What if you were back then, 1950s, you went to the theater, you're watching this movie, and you don't know anything about it? Because that was another thing about movies back then. There weren't there wasn't Rotten Tomatoes, there wasn't round-the-clock coverage of it, there weren't 1,000 different movie critics on YouTube.
There were no leaks or anything.
No leaks, nothing like that. A lot of people would go to movies with no idea of what it was. They would just see in the paper like, yes, Vincent Price has got a new film coming out, honey. We're gonna go to the moving pictures and take a look at it. Yeah, that's all the people would know. They just know who was in the movie. They might see the poster. That's it. And I found myself thinking, if you didn't know, this would be a really intriguing mystery.
Yeah.
Because back in the 1950s, listen, for anybody out there who has never seen the film, I'm going to at least spoil this for you. Yeah, it's about a scientist who's inventing a teleportation device. He goes through the teleportation device, but a fly gets in there, and the fly's DNA get mixed up, and he gets a fly head. We've all seen that. But I found myself going, man, this thing, it opens up the very beginning of the film. We're watching some guy at a factory, and he hears one of the machines go off, and he comes right in there, and he sees one of our main characters, Helene, and she is standing beside in a giant press. And in the press is a person. Their head and their hand are underneath the press, and just blood is oozing outside, which shockingly graphic for the 1950s.
Yeah. It's like we were complaining that this has been like colored when it's originally in black and white.
I actually don't even know if that's true. I've seen a lot of black and white photos of it, but I've been looking around. I can't find a black and white version of it, so maybe it wasn't. Yeah.
All right, but
plus 1950s, that things were in color by then.
Yeah. I was gonna say, like, I was wondering if it was originally in black and white, if they did change it to color so you can see that it is actually blood in the press.
The red on that press. Whoa!
It is very red.
It is
a
shocking.
Deep red.
like you said, this thing punches you in the gut in that moment, and you have no idea what's going on. Because I was aware of all the stuff that comes later in the movie, but I didn't know it opens like that. Mm-hmm. And after that, this woman, she then calls up her brother-in-law, the brother of the man who she's married to, and she calls him, and that's Vincent Price, and she tells him, I just killed my husband. I just killed your brother. I need you to call the police. And then the movie just becomes her in the house, and they're like, okay, well, why was there any sign that they weren't happy? No, they were a wonderful couple together. One of the best couples around.
They even have a kid.
They have a child together. Yeah, and the movie just becomes a mystery. Mm-hmm. Why did this woman kill her husband? And then she sees a fly buzzing around, and she is so focused on, and at one point, like the cleaning lady.
Yeah, like the housemaid?
The housemaid, yeah. She swats at the fly, and Helene loses her mind and runs up to it and, like, looking at it, is like screaming and crying. And all I could think was, again, if you, an audience member in the 1950s, just saw there's some new movie out called The Fly, and that's all you know, and you walked into this thing, and you're treated to a movie that opens with a woman who just killed her husband, but there's no signs of why she would have done it, no motivation, no nothing, but she's focused on flies for some reason, you would probably be really intrigued. You would probably be, like, sitting there the whole time like, what? Okay, I gotta know the answer to this. I gotta find out what's going on in this thing. And I think that's one of the reasons why I like this, but I understand why other people think it drags. Mm-hmm. Looking at it through that lens, I think it is a very fascinating mystery. Granted, it's a mystery that we all already know the answer to, but still. Yeah. However, then eventually Vincent Price gets her to talk. He gets her to tell her what happened, and then we get treated to a flashback, and we see her and her husband, and yeah, they are a great couple.
Yes.
They are very nice. They've got really good chemistry with each other.
Honestly, it felt like a traditional, like, 1950s family TV series.
Yeah, very much so.
Like, very Leave It to Beaver.
Very, yes. Except whatever. Wow, it really would be Leave It to Beaver because this is in Canada. That's another thing that I found very fascinating about this. I've always had a fascination with the idea of finding a Canadian horror film. Not a horror film filmed in Canada. I mean one set in Canada. That's because so many horror films are made in Canada, but they're all set in America. And, like, it is a big trend. There's actually even a term for it, Canucksploitation. And I've always just found that so fascinating of, okay, there have to be some Canadian horror films that are actually set in Canada. And almost everyone in here has a French name, but only, like, one person actually has a French accent. And I was like, okay, so maybe this is actually set in France, but, like, none of the actors could do French accents, so it's the 1950s, so they just said, fuck it, we'll do it anyways. But I was like, okay, that's just very odd to me. Why does everybody have French names? And then there's a moment in which the scientist is talking to Helene, and he's trying to explain his teleportation device, and he compares it to a TV, and he says, imagine telling my grandfather that he could watch a baseball game in New York from Montreal as it's happening live. I was like, oh, Montreal, oh! This is set in Canada.
Yeah, like even later on in the movie, you see the police cars roll up, and there's Montreal police on the side of the car. So
I just found that very fascinating. That's like no one ever brings up that The Fly is Canadian. That's kind of cool. I don't know, like one of the most iconic horror films of all time is actually set in Canada.
Canadian Fly should have lured him with maple syrup.
Yes. You really enjoyed that one. Okay. But that's an aside. Yeah, like I said, I just found that very fascinating that no one ever brings up when they mention like, oh, what horror films are actually Canadian. Oh, The Fly. It actually is. That's kind of cool. Anywho, we get treated to this flashback, and again, even after we go into the flashback, there's still a long build-up to this of him testing out the device, testing out the teleportation. He sends the dish through the teleportation, and she looks at it and goes, oh my goodness, it's entirely, oh, wait, hold on, here on the bottom, the words are backwards.
Yeah, like made in Japan on the bottom of the plate is backwards.
Yeah.
So you're looking through a mirror, basically.
So he's still trying to figure out how to make this work. There comes a moment in which he sends their cat through it, and the cat just disappears, but he can still hear the cat somewhere meowing. And I looked at that and I was like, okay, don't brush that. Like, they just skip right past that. And all I could think was, come on, dude, that's a movie in and of itself. You just made a ghost cat. We should be sticking with that a little bit longer. But I do enjoy...
before you go on, it's like, at the beginning, like when the guy was going through the factory, he comes across a black cat. I don't think you saw that. I think you went up to like get dinner or something. Food, yeah. But yeah, like I saw the black cat and I was like, oh, they're focusing a lot on that cat. And then like you see the family's pet, which is also a cat, but it's a white cat. Yes. So I'm wondering if something happened that made the white cat.
Was the fur still the same?
No, like it was black.
No, I mean like the puffiness of it, like the fullness. Okay.
It's like, I don't know, maybe I'm just making shit up.
You might be looking a little bit too much into it, but I like the idea of it. That would be a cool thing if they had made the cat try and look the same. But that's a cool idea though. But yeah, so he keeps trying to get this thing to work, and he's locked himself down in the little like bunker where he's doing all the experimentations. And then one day he just stops coming back up, and he stops eating the food that they bring down there for him. And the wife goes down there to investigate, and he doesn't say anything. He just slides notes to her underneath with very detailed instructions of don't look at me, bring me milk with rum inside of it. Don't say anything, don't do anything, just come in here. I will explain everything inside. And she comes inside, and he's got one hand in his pocket, and his head is just covered with a towel. And again, it's one of those things where we, the audience, know what's coming because we're in the future where everyone knows what's coming in this film. But again, I kept thinking, man, if you were in the 1950s and you had no idea what this movie is about, this would probably be really chilling because you've got no clue what it is. And there comes a moment in which he gets frustrated and he pulls his hand out of his pocket, and it is a fly's hand. And again, we've all seen the big reveal at the end of like what his head actually looks like. But man, again, if you were in the 1950s and you did not know, the fact that you would now spend the remaining like 40 minutes of this film just picturing in your head, oh God, what could be under that towel? What could he possibly look like? Yeah, that's actually a pretty good way to build suspense. I kind of dig that. I will also say another thing that I enjoyed about this film before he got turned into The Fly. This film, it's very 1950s in that the 1950s was a time in which things started moving fast. technology was moving a lot faster. People now had televisions inside their homes that were doing the impossible, a thing that nobody ever imagined could be happening within their homes is right there. People were talking about taking rocket ships to the moon and doing all this other stuff. And there's a moment there that I really enjoyed in which he's talking about the wonders of science and how incredible science is and how great science is for the world. And, we're doing all these amazing things with it. And she's talking about how she feels overwhelmed and things are moving too fast and she can't keep up with everything and it's just too much for her. And I really enjoyed that because I feel like it is a snapshot of this particular time in history, because we've seen other horror films from this period of time. Creature from the Black Lagoon was one that where we had characters talking about this same stuff about like, oh, science is amazing. We're going to use science to do this stuff. But I found this to be really fascinating because it's one of the only times I've actually seen what feels like a very human response to this. Mm-hmm. There probably were people at this point in time like, dude, I don't know. I've now got this thing in my house that shows pictures from across the country in real time. This isn't a thing that should be happening. So
a lot of people were like that when the internet was first.
Which, man, that's a whole subgenre in itself, like internet horror from that period of time when the internet was new. Japan really leaned into that. There were a lot of Japanese horror films when the internet was new. But yeah, I found that to be a very real human moment. And I kind of dug that because you don't see a lot of other films that just snapshot that specific conversation. But yeah, so the science doesn't work out. He turns himself into a fly man. And from there, this is when people argue that this film drags. I think they're mostly talking about the 50-minute build up to him becoming a fly. And I'll also say this. We don't even see the experiment. No. The way that I just described it to you is how it happened. He's just down there in the lab. They're like, it's been a while. Yeah, where is this guy? Yeah, and then she goes down. And he's just got the towel on his head. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's kind of lame. You could have had like some kind of a build to it, but at the same time, I guess they were trying
to make it a mystery.
Yeah, I think they wanted to be a mystery.
Also, I was kind of thinking like the movie Jaws, like the less you see of the shark, the more frightening it is. So I was wondering if like that was kind of like the vibe I was going with this.
I definitely feel like there could be some of that too. And yeah, I think it's a very smart decision that we do not see the actual fly head. And like I said, him just point out the hand and we see that it's the fly hand. Again, audiences back then had to have been jumping in their seats. And all I can think is, man, they spent the next 40 minutes of this movie wondering what is underneath that towel. What does he actually look like? And after that, this is when I will admit I do think the film drags a bit. Because then it becomes them trying to catch the fly that has his head and his hand on it.
Yeah, like their kid, their little boy, he loves catching bugs and everything. And like at one point he says, oh, I caught a funny looking fly. It has a white head and a white leg. And it's like...
Yeah, and the wife is just like, oh, throw that away, honey. And man, that's devastating looking back at it. Knowing what it is, that is heartbreaking to know that they were that close.
So I was impressed that they actually like painted some of the fly's head to be white.
Yeah, they did actually like paint a fly's head white. That's crazy. Which again is one of those things that makes me go, I think this actually was always in color. Yeah, that's the thing to point out. That is, man, imagine the person who had that job. The film just becomes them trying to find the fly for a little bit. And that's, okay, that, when people say this movie drags, I'll agree with them. That's kind of like, just like, okay, yeah, we're just kind of like waiting on them. Nope, they missed the fly. Okay, well, no, now they maybe got, nope, no, they don't. And the fact that we're in the future at the beginning of this film, and we know that they didn't catch the fly, it's like, yeah, okay, it kind of makes these scenes just really kind of feel like they're pointless.
Yeah, and it's like, it would be, the fact that it's a fly also makes it like very not very exciting. Like if it was a science experiment with like a mutated rat or something, that would be like more intense, I feel like.
Something that could possibly like attack them or something like, yeah, but instead they're just like, man, yeah, it really is just waiting around to see if you find a fly. It's nothing really that impressive.
What's even like less impressive is you don't even need to have a fly in the on set. You could just have someone look around and like add the buzzing sound effect later on. It's just
yeah. So it's not that's not the most interesting part of this. But I will say, you all know how the film ends because it opens with the scientist's body in the press. You know things don't go well. So I'm not going to get too much into... Well, okay. I'm not going to get too much into spoilers here, but I will say the actual reveal of the flyhead, when they finally do take that towel off, it's actually... Like, I know what it looks like because, again, I'm aware of this movie. Watching it actually there in the movie, I'm like, that's actually a really good effect.
It is. It's very impressive.
It's twitching. It's like moving around. Man, I don't even know how they made that thing work back in the 1950s. That's really impressive.
And then you like cut to like his perspective, the fly's perspective, where it's like, you know, multiple eyes and everything.
That's great. That's a really good shot. That is a genuinely good shot. And she freaks out. She passes out because it's 1950s and she's a woman. That's something we do need to point out. There's a moment in which Philippe is talking to his uncle, Vincent Price. Philippe is the little boy. And he's talking to his uncle, Vincent Price. And he's like, yes, mommy made me throw that away. And mommy's this. And mommy's so hysterical. You know how women are. And that's the exact line that he says. I'm like,
this is so 1950s.
That's your mom, dude. Jesus. Holy cow. Wow. Yeah, it's one of those moments where it was like, man, 1950s, a 10-year-old boy had more authority in the house than his grown-ass mom. God damn. Anywho, but yeah, the moment in which they actually get to the reveal, there's the moment like in which he has to cover himself back up afterwards, and he's trying to write on a blackboard, and they made a line earlier on about the more he works, the worse his handwriting gets. And we're seeing his handwriting, and you can barely make out what he's saying anymore because his mind is going.
Yeah, like the fly is taking over his brain, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And, man, there's a moment where it's like the last thing that he writes on the board. Like, he's telling her, like, you gotta take me to the press. Use this. I'll set it up. I'm just gonna lay her there. You just do this. And, like, the last thing he writes on there, like, his words are, like, you can barely make out that he's even putting in letters and not just scribbling. But the last thing he writes in just really big letters is, love you. I was like, God damn. I wasn't expecting to get, like, an emotional attachment to anybody in The Fly, but that really kind of struck with me.
Yeah.
Because you see them early on, and they are a genuinely good couple.
Yeah.
All anyone says is how much they love each other. And man, that final moment, like the last thing that he did with his human mind was saying that, it really stung. Like, that was really good. Like I said, I wasn't expecting anything like that from this movie. But you would imagine that'd probably be the end of the film. We see what happens to him, we come back to the present, and you'd imagine that would probably be the end of it.
But you gotta find out what happened to the other part of him.
Well, that's not quite, like, I figured that what they were going to do, because again, we all know that final shot. We all know that final shot of, again, I'm not even going to divide this review up into spoiler sections because I feel like everybody knows The Fly, but if you do want to tune out now. But yeah, we all know that final shot of the fly with the human head in a spider web saying, help me, help me. Yeah, that, Although I will admit, now that I've actually watched the film and I know that wasn't him, that was just a fly with a human head, it's not nearly as creepy.
Yeah.
Like, to me, the big creepy thing is, man, imagine being a human being who gets turned into a fly and you still have your human consciousness and all your memories and everything, and you're just stuck there as a spider's about to eat. It's like, oh God, it just freaks me out so much. This was a fly that just could speak English. And it's like, all right, that's not nearly as creepy. But I always imagined that, like, as Vincent Price and the inspector both hear her story. And they're like, well, that's some story. And then as they're walking out, the inspector's like, of course she's insane. We're going to bring the doctors here. And they're going to take her away to the mental institution forever. And she's going to be charged with murder. And Vincent Price is like, no, but it must be true. There's so many other things that that's a terrible Vincent Price. It's like, this must be true. It's clearly she was up to something. You've seen the lab downstairs. You know that it was real. He's like, well, then find me the fly. And then you see Vincent Price wondering where the fly could be. I imagine that the camera's gonna like zoom out, and then we were going to see like somewhere that he would never find is where the spider web is. And it's like, oh, all is hopeless. That's it. And that's how the movie ends. That is not how the movie ends.
No.
The movie becomes a ticking time bomb then of the mental institution people arriving to take her away, and Vincent Price is running around trying to find where the fly could possibly be. And I'm just like, dude, I don't think you realize the audience is grabbing their hats and leaving right now. Like, the movie was about the fly man. Nobody cares about whether or not she actually goes to the mental institution. Like, we just witnessed a scientist get turned into a fly man and then his head crushed in a press. Hydraulic press. That's the word.
Yes,
the entire time I've been like, there's some other word in there aside from press. We just watched a scientist get turned into a fly monster and then his head crushed inside of a hydraulic press by his wife. Nobody is, like, the movie's over. Climax is achieved. That was the height of the film. But the film sticks with this part for a long time of, I must find the fly, running all over the place. The medical guys are coming. They're getting closer. She's saying, no, don't take me away to the asylum. I must find this fly before it's too late. And just like, dude, no, movie... Climax happened. We're done.
But then the boy like comes along and is like, hey, I saw that fly. It was in the spider web. And
yeah, that spider's got to get it, all right. And man, the boy doesn't seem to understand what's happening to anybody, by the way.
No, but like that would make sense considering like he doesn't like...
They're trying to hide it from him. Like, he still thinks that his father is going to return at some point. He's like, Mommy must be real sick. I guess these people are here to help her. And it's like, okay, kid, I know you're a child, but even then you're a little bit dense. But yeah, so at the end of it, Vincent Price is able to convince the inspector to go right over there and look at the spider web. And then that's where we get the final shot of the fly saying, help me, help me. And yeah, even with me now knowing, oh, it's not the actual scientist, it's just a fly with like the human face on there, it's still really, like, it is disturbing.
Yeah, it's like really impressive effects.
It's like, one of the most disturbing things I've seen from a 1950s horror film. Like, it's generally like, holy cow. No wonder Cronenberg made the remake of this. Like, you can look at that and be like, yeah, that probably inspired him. That probably built his entire career. But then at the end of it, the inspector just picks up a giant rock and smashes the fly.
And the spider.
And the spider. And he's just like, I'm going to see that in my mind for as long as I live. I was like, yeah, probably.
So did you.
Literally, yeah. Same. Yeah, man. So it was like, yeah, it's like, wow, man, you just put the most fucked up thing you can imagine in this movie and then had an actor be like, that's the most fucked up thing I ever saw. But then this is something that I do have a big problem with in this film. It is actual mark against it. It then says like Vincent Price even says, she killed a man with a fly face, and you killed a fly with the face of a man. You're just as much of a murderer as she is. And so, yeah, the inspector decides to let them go. And it then cuts to like a month later. And Vincent Price is living there, which, by the way, there's a very quick line earlier on in which Vincent Price mentions that he did fall in love with her too, but she fell in love with his brother. And then at the end, you see Vincent Price, Helene, and Philippe all living together happily. I'm just like, did they hook up?
Maybe.
Maybe, I don't know.
But it's like the thing, because like Vincent Price's character was fond of the wife, like they suspected him of killing the... Yeah. But nope, that's not what happened.
Yeah, so at the end of it, they're living together, and Philippe comes up and says he knows that his dad is dead, and he wants to know, well, why did Daddy die? And Vincent Price gives this speech that I do kind of like.
Yeah.
About how, well, he was an explorer, and he was exploring the unknown, which is a very important and brave and wonderful thing to do, but he went a little bit too far, so it's always important to remember where you are in the world, like something like that. Like, and
It's like, be careful, like, basically.
basically be careful.
Yeah.
Science is wonderful, but be careful with it.
Yes.
And I think that's like, listen, we've talked about this in other 50s horror films. I like that message. I kind of dig when 50s horror films are like, man, science is wonderful, isn't it? But, you know, be careful. And I kind of dig that ends up with that. But then it ends with all three of them like just walking off into the sunset and everything is amazing. And all I could think was, man, listen, I'm glad that you had the pro-science message here at the end. But dude, she had to watch her husband turn to a fly monster and then had to murder him in a hydraulic press. And you had to see your brother's face on a fly body as it was screaming for help before it was crushed by a rock. Don't act like you two are fine. Don't act like you two are ever recovering from that shit. Yeah, dude.
Maybe they got a lobotomy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those in which, like, listen, I enjoy the pro-science message at the end, but this thing wraps up in a neat, tidy package. Don't pretend like that's how this would work. Oh, yeah, it wrapped up way too clean at the end.
Yeah, like I said, very Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah, very much like credits roll. Yeah, that's the most shocking thing about this entire movie, is how nicely it wraps up there at the end. It's just jarring. But yeah, I still really like this.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a B, maybe B-, but like around there, yeah.
I'd say a B too. Like, this is very much like a classic B movie type. I would, like, it has, like, it checks off all the things you expect from, like, a B movie, a 50s horror B movie. So.
Yeah, and also, like, I will fully admit, again, if I was watching it today knowing everything that happens in this film, yeah, I probably would find it boring. But I was able to watch this and put myself into the mind of a 1950s movie theater goer and go, okay, if I didn't know anything, first hour of this film is really intriguing. It's actually a genuinely interesting mystery. So yeah, I did not find this to drag nearly as much. I didn't have nearly as many complaints as a lot of other people. I do think this is good. I just think you have to put yourself in that mindset.
Right.
Just go like, all right, let me judge this for what it is and appreciate it as that. But yeah, that's it. That is our review of The Fly. We're still in Mad Scientist Mayhem for the rest of this month. So come back tomorrow, or not tomorrow, whenever this goes up. Listen, I gave up on trying to do a complete schedule for this like long ago. So it might be tomorrow. Who knows?
Like you said, this is the least professional review show on YouTube.
And I wear that with pride. But come back whenever the hell I upload the next video. It will hopefully still be in May. Otherwise, this name makes no sense. But come back for Hollow Man. A much more crass movie than this one. Bye, everybody.
Bye.